A very good morning to one and all present here. Let us begin this interdisciplinary workshop with the famous quotes. Knowledge is an unending adventure at the edge of uncertainty. Now, I invite our HOD, Dr. A. Narmada ma'am, to deliver the welcome address and the introduction of our chief guest.
Thank you, Mom. Very good morning, one and all present here. On behalf of Department of Management Studies, DBJC College, Chennai, I warmly welcome all of you to the fourth day interdisciplinary workshop on the theme Building Skills and Knowledge for Being a Good Teaching Professional. I have immense pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Dr. S. Vidhya, Associate Professor, Department of Management, PKR Arts College for Women, Gobichettipalayam, Erode. She is multi-talented. She has more than 13 years of teaching and research experience. She conducted and coordinated more than 100 workshops, guest lectures, and certification courses for students and teaching professionals. She got more than 20 grants for organizing webinar and conferences and seminar. She also got various research projects from various funding agencies. Simply saying, she had initiated to get fund for research from a number of agencies, and she is in the forefront of conducting innumerable research programs. I would like to mention few. She got ICSSR Seminar Grant Award during 2019-20 on Startup Business for Economic Revival, attending for more than 500 beneficiaries. She presented major project for rupees 30,85,000 to ICSSR Impress, that is the Impact Policy Research in Social Science, on the topic a study on the status of startup business and their role in poverty alleviation in the Erode district of Tamil Nadu. She is also being a principal investigator. She applied and utilized rupees 3 lakh for conducting EDP and EDII Chennai, the government of Tamil Nadu. She had published 13 publications that include 2 books and 11 articles. She has presented more than 35 papers in UGC-sponsored national and international seminars and conferences. She also got many awards, to mention a few: Best Outgoing Student Award, Best Project Award, Best Performer Award in intercollegiate competition. She got topper in Merit Track certification for campus assessment in Bangalore. She is a member of many forums at the college and university level. Her profile is endless. I mentioned only few of them. If I begin to elaborate them, it would take half an hour. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming during your busy schedule. Once again, I welcome you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to invite the most honorable personality of this morning, Dr. S. Vidhya ma'am, Associate Professor, Department of Management, PKR Arts College for Women, Gopichettipalayam, Erode, to take and hand the topic, preparation of best project proposal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, HOD ma'am, for setting the context. And I place on record my sincere thanks and gratitude to Dr. Shaktivel Murugan sir for his mentoring and support all through my research endeavor, and even for this program. I'm really blessed to be mentored by such a great personality, and you people are really blessed to be with him, working with him in such a good academic environment. Good morning to all, and best wishes for the day. I'm presenting my screen. Please let me know if you can see it. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So, as I go through the presentation, I will not be able to see this Google Meet layout. So, if you want anything to be told, please unmute and let me know. Thank you. I'm just proceeding with the presentation. Fine. I really appreciate the attempt to conduct an interdisciplinary workshop for this year, and I'm happy to be here with you all on day 4, preparation of best project proposal, the topic given to me. So my sincere thanks again to the management, to my parent institution, PKR Arts College for Women, and to the host today, Dhanraj Bay Jain College, Chennai, for having given me this opportunity. So when we talk about project proposals, it is always this, as you see the cartoon, there are thousands of excellent proposals coming up from many research scholars, but the research scholars or the one who proposes prepares the proposal, we do not adhere to the format of the donor agency or the funding agency. So that is where the gap falls. And when we fail to fill the gap, our proposals are just getting piled up to the funding institutions as just a bounded copy. So with that background note, I would just move to the next slide. Fine. When a topic like this was given to me, I was thinking about a listener of this webinar or the workshop, whatever you call, with some questions in mind. So when we talk about proposals, when we talk about the best proposal to be prepared, what is the best proposal? Who makes the proposal best, or who makes the best proposal? What guidelines do we need to follow to prepare a best proposal? What are the ingredients to be put in to cook up a best proposal? What are the traits of the ingredients of the proposal? And what do the funding agencies look for in a proposal? What are the criteria they use to judge the proposal? Why do many proposals fail? Why do a few make it up? And am I one among the few making up a good proposal? So how do I make it happen? And do I really have the thirst to do it? Does it really matter to me? So these are the few possible questions that I had in my mind when the topic was given to me by the HOD of the Department of Management. So I have tried my best to answer these few questions. And if anything else you have, we can please share it now so that we can set the context for this session and proceed. Anything else you would like to know? In the next 45 minutes, I would be elaborating on the questions that was told to you. If anything else you would like to know, you can please make a note and at least let me know in the end of the session. So now, I request few participants to unmute yourself and let me know some attributes, A, B, C, D, you can name them, when you talk about a best attire for you. Yes? When you get ready for the college, how good do you want to look at? Or when you choose a sari for you, to buy a sari for you for Diwali, what would be the features you would be looking in that particular product? Can you name a few?
Comfortness.
Okay. Comfortness. Yes. I'm looking for answers. Few. They may be right or wrong. It is very personal. So you can put it across. It could be anything.
Unique.
You are choosing uniqueness. Yes. Thank you for that.
Nice color.
Okay. Nice color. Ma'am, can I take it as a pleasing color?
Yes, pleasing color.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Nice, pleasing color. Fine. Thank you, ma'am.
Quality.
Quality. Yes. Yes. Shall we add few more? Shall we add few more, please?
Looks beautiful.
Looks. Yes.
Beautiful.
Okay. Okay. Looks beautiful. Or
Latest model.
Yes.
The model.
Latest
Yes.
model, ma'am.
Yes. Latest model or pattern or design. Fine, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Latest trending also might be.
Fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're pouring in ideas. Great. Anything else you want to add?
See the material of the cloth.
Okay. 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 Material or call it composition. Yes. So are we done? Do we have any other responses, ma'am? Fine. I request the others to kindly mute if you're not answering. Thank you. Thank you for that. So to choose best attire for you or shopping for Diwali, a great grand sari, the best one for the year, we're looking for comfortness, uniqueness, nice or pleasing color, quality, beautiful outs everybody, right? We would like to outstand the crowd. Everybody has that thought. It could be a sari for 500 rupees, or it could be a sari for 5,000 or a 10,000 rupees. But we would like our sari to be outstanding in the crowd. Fine. A latest model, good patterns, designs, and hashtag trending, the material and composition. Fine. So these are the best things that we look in for an attire or while shopping for a sari. Fine. So in a best proposal, these are the things people looking for. An appealing proposal, a complete proposal, a synergetic proposal, a proposal that goes an extra mile or that gives you an extra mile advantage. Why not? Why not these features for a proposal? If we could concentrate so many features for a sari that we use rarely or hardly for twice or thrice a year, if we could call in for so many features, it is quite important that we have at least these things in a proposal that is sent across for funding. Fine. So here we define a best proposal. The primary purpose for any proposal, it could be a proposal to a female or a male. It could be a proposal, a project proposal sent to a donor agency or a funding agency. It could be a proposal made to the parents by a daughter or a son to buy something, to travel to a place, to get something for the kitchen, to buy a new car, whatnot, no? So any such proposal is to convince the donor or the one who is going to fund our project. Fine. In that case, it has to be informative and persuasive. Informative in the sense, anything that you speak up for the topic, anything that you speak up for the context is information, and anything that you talk convincing is being persuasive. And so putting everything in a structured way, which is going to pull information concisely and finally help us achieve what we want, is going to be a best proposal. So it should convince a donor. It should reach the funding agency on time. It should be informative and persuasive. It should be structured. It should be concise. And all 5 things put together, it should help us achieve what we want. And that is what is a best proposal. So I have given you the capsule. Fine. Given the agenda for the week-long interdisciplinary thing happening this week, I've just come up with the components of a project proposal that are generally expected by funding agencies. And there is no proposal without these areas being focused. So these are very basic for any proposal that we submit for funding. So we will be just exploring these areas in sequence in the following slides. Fine. The first thing that we decide when we talk about a project proposal is the title of the study. And there were times when the University Grants Commission was having open call for proposals, and it was the research grant writers or scholars or students or faculty or even people in the industry who designed topics of importance, who brought in areas of importance, who actually found out the thrust areas to be researched. And they were structured by the researchers by their own. But of late, funding agencies have come up with a structure in which they want proposals on certain thrust areas. Thrust areas are the areas in which the funding agency is going to fund us. Simple. So those thrust areas will be put across by the funding agency whenever there is a call for proposal. So when we talk about call for proposal, there are certain areas or certain agencies who call in for proposals annually. There are certain biannual proposals called for. There are certain proposals they call in to disburse funds with a limitation. Say, for example, the UGC Impress has around 400 crores of rupees to be disbursed for projects. So they have made it. They have phased it in three aspects. The first call for proposals have been sanctioned. They have been completed. The second call has been completed. We are yet to receive sanction from them, and the remaining money will be they'll be kept for the future. So it all depends on the funding agency. And now, once the funding agencies have decided upon what areas they are going to operate, they will be calling in for proposals. Once they are calling in for proposals, they will be giving us the thrust areas, the guidelines to be followed in applying for the proposal, and the follow-up action also. So with that pinch of information, we have to investigate to which organization are we applying for fund, and learn about their strategic vision, the purpose for which the funding agency was established, the objectives of the funding agency. Also, when you work for an institution, you have to look about the objective of your parent institution, which will give you knowledge about the locational advantages and also the role of the regional benefits. Because I work for a college which is located in a rural region, and it's a women institution. So when I put up a proposal to, say, for example, National Commission for Women, I will have to be focusing on the advantages of a proposal being granted to a women's institution located in a rural background. So that will actually add weightage to the proposal. So all these have to be considered when framing the research title. Then, choosing the domain and subdomain. As told, the thrust areas will be put across by the funding agencies. We will not have much to do with the domain or subdomain, but we have to choose an area where we are a bit expert in. Say, for example, you are a person who have continuously attended or organized webinars or seminars or conferences or talk shows on Internet of Things recently. So you are the most eligible person to apply for a proposal on Internet of Things or on any application on IoT. So this is where you create a match between your proposal and your profile. So the expertise sharing that you have handled, the PhD domain that you have addressed, you would have been a coordinator in handling certain things for your department. You would have been a member of a certain body. Thank you. So you would have been a member of a certain committee or a body for your institution. You would have been an expert in handling a subject for almost 5 years or 6 years, giving 100% result, or you would be good at framing a syllabus with the course outcomes, program outcomes, the mapping. So that would give you an expertise in the area. So all these will really add value to the domain and subdomain that you are choosing up. And next is drafting the title. As I told you, with all these background knowledge, you can draft the title. And please remember, this draft title is subject to change as you go through the review of literature, because the reviews that we are going to collect, the background information that we are going to collect, will be from different perspectives, from different authors, from different backgrounds, done by people in different ages across the century, in different contexts, in different continents, countries. So the findings will be unique, the setup will be unique, the results will throw insights into scope of further research. So with all that in mind, create a topic that is very SMART. SMART is the same principle that applies for goal setting: simple, measurable. Can you expand the SMART? Simple, measurable, achievable, time-bound, and it could be resourceful. So with all that in mind, we will be framing relevance, relevance, resourcefulness, yes. So now we are moving on to preparation of abstract. Hope I'm making sense. If I'm not clear, please stop me. So now we are going to move on to prepare the abstract of the project. So once the title is ready, we are supposed to prepare the abstract, but it is not that easy to immediately jump into preparing the abstract, because we have just framed the title and we are not an expert handling it. So we can just think about how the work will flow. Where are we going to start? How are we going to travel through the research? what could be the explorable areas and what could be the implications. So everything would be a preconceived notion, an outline that we are framing up for the study. So for this to be done, we will need some exposure to the social media, updates on the news, some national and international happenings. I'm sorry, this is international happenings. Yeah. And as we get going, you would be knowing on social media. So the words that they use, trending words or the tag search on Google, help to access your proposal. And for applications, be framing 7 to 10 key. Those are the handles that make, and don't give too much of information and do not restrict yourself in maintaining adequacy of data. So too less or too many of data will spoil the abstract. So keep it simple, precise, and to the context. And next is deciding about the duration of the proposal. As I told you, whenever the funding agency calls in for proposals, they will insist upon the nature of the research. It could be a short duration research. It could be a minor research project. It could be a major research project. So when it is a short duration research project, the total time span that they give us would be from minimum 6 months to 12 months. If it is going to be a minor research project, it would be spanning from around 1 year to a maximum of 2 years. And if it is going to be a major proposal, around 2 to 5 years. So if that is the timeline, you have hardly 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, and 36 months in hand. So we have to be careful in planning the timeline for the budget. What would be your interest to explore the research process for every quarter? So what is your entire plan? And moreover, people have completed your doctorate, you would be knowing that you will be chunking down your research process into various stages, start achieving them every quarter, and try to finish your doctorate in a required time span, say 3 years or 4 years. Similarly, we have to chunk down the research process, identify the stages of the research process, fix timelines, and see to that you are able to give a justification for every quarter. Say, for example, if you are quoting that you will be requiring 2 months to prepare a questionnaire to collect your data. So that 2 months have to be justified with proper reasoning why you would need 2 months time to prepare a questionnaire. Similarly, all the stages of the research process have to be fixed a timeline, and that time bound has to be clarified with justifications, with reasons, so that there could be quarter-wise timelines planned for the study. You could go in for tabulating the details, but a picture like this would be easily readable, would easily demonstrate your proficiency in planning of the project. We are moving on to preparing budget for the proposal. As we say budget, it is just an estimate. We cannot go in for giving exact details of how much you will spend. But when we prepare the budget, we should be careful enough to understand that we include every small component of the research process. As I mean the small component, I give you an indication that the paper, the pen, the pencil, the stationeries that you use, the human resource that you deploy, the technical support that you will require, the data access that you will need, everything should be brought into the scene. And every small thing has to be justified. Say, for example, here you can see you have to keep in mind the proposed research process, add justification and details, include roles and responsibilities for the participants in every stage. See here, I believe the screen is clearly visible to you. Say, for example, a principal investigator will be involved. A project coordinator will be a part of the process. You will have a research officer. You can have a statistician. You can have work on field survey. You will be doing something on data collection. You will have to travel across the length and breadth of your universe to collect data, to handle your data, to analyze your data, to even substantiate the results of your research. You will have to maintain rapport with your stakeholders in the society, and of all, the institution will have to spend some overhead charges on contingency. So all these aspects have to be kept in mind when we prepare the budget. And many organizations are very clear about how much you need to spend on every head. You can very clearly see here the description or the component that you add under each head can be explained by the project of the principal investigator or the director of the project. The time span is given here. Say, for example, the project coordinator, if I enter my name, Dr. Vidhya here, I cannot be remunerated for not more than 12 months. So for 12 months, I will be remunerated from the date of the receipt of the first installment. Every month, I will be given some amount. So the maximum value that the principal investigator can give to the project coordinator is 1,80,000 only. The principal investigator can take a lump sum of 30,000 only during the entire project. And you can quote some amount less than this. And for field survey and data collection, you can claim for only 6 months, summing up to an amount of rupees 9 lakh only. And this I have taken from the research proposal guidelines of National Commission for Women. This will vary institution to institution funding us. So we have to be very careful in listening to the very small information that is given in the guideline. And for overhead contingency, you have to draft the entire budget. From the entire budget, you cannot go beyond 10% of the total estimate. And moreover, this is a very common limitation you can find in any kind of a call for. Hope I'm justifying the topic. And as and when we prepare the budget estimates, we have to be very careful about the scope of the project, because say, for example, when you're talking about field survey or data collection, it will not cost much when your universe is restricted to a small geographical location. When you expand the geographical location from a taluk to a district, or from district to multiple districts, and number of district to a state, and state to a country, the requirement to travel across the length and breadth, the expense to travel will vary naturally, and that is where you can give enough justification, and logical reasoning will be checked. Please be careful with that. And next. Yeah. Moving to preparation of introduction to the study. So when we prepare the introduction to the study, it is all about conceptual clarification and operational definitions that we're going to use in the proposal. So here our concentration have to be in chunking out the title. Divide the title into a number of parts. The main focus of your research, the subdomain, the universe of the study or the geography of the study, the samples that you will include, the period of study, all that you have to cover. So once you have chunked the title into different parts, we have to concentrate in defining who is what. What is what? When you mean online shoppers, do you mean people making the shopping happen when they do the shopping itself, or it is their post-shopping experience, or one who is aspiring to become an online shopper? So you have to be very clear in defining every element of the title. So we have to introduce the concepts, and this introduction of concepts is not the definition that you and me have. It is the definition, it is a standard definition that we have in textbooks that have been standardized by researchers, scholars, faculty, and even students with publications. So those are conceptual clarifications. And then we move on to bring down the operational definitions. Say, for example, if I talk about impulsive buyers, a definition on impulsive buyer would say it's an urge or a person engaging in shopping, engaging in a buying process on the spur of the moment. So this is the definition given in a book, in a textbook. So I have to define an impulsive buyer in the context of my research. So I define an impulsive buyer who acts on different urges in different situations. So that is an operational definition. The next is conducting a fishbone audit, which will help us to identify the triggers of the topic under study. Say, for example, if I'm going to investigate impulsive buying, I will have to investigate details about what causes impulsive buying, the internal factors of a person, the external factors in the environment, the factors in the shopping environment. All these will cause a person to be impulsive in shopping process. So these things have to be identified. Then next, we have to establish a logical connect between the internal factors, the external triggers, and the environmental cues. So all this put together will influence an individual during their shopping process, and this shopping process will create, when the person is impulsive, will create some kind of post-purchase depression or post-purchase satisfaction. So that has to be studied. So this is with relate to establishing a logical sequence in the research proposal. Then we have to develop a theoretical model. That is what I was telling you. And with that model, what is going to be the new thing that I am exploring as a researcher? Say, for example, if I am going to explore the impact of one of these factors, there should be something new to connect, because review of literature will give you this existing connection between the components of the model. So I have to do something new in this. And the next stage is review of literature. So the title will be chunked down, and here we will be looking in for international work and work in the national context. When I mean international work, we are talking about research studies happening across the continents of the world in different research settings. It could be experimental research, it could be a descriptive research, or it could be a very small research done by a college-going student. But we have to record the impact. It should be obtained and it can be used. So we have to look in for international work and check for work at the national levels. So we will be try to know about who has done what work, when have they done it, and what are the results. We will try to identify how recent is the research. When we talk about recency in research, we have to remember that not all researchers have hundreds of references in the immediate decade. Say, for example, impulsive buying is one kind of research where there's a lot of recent decade. But there is no much research about COVID-19, about the coronavirus in the recent decade. So recency to a particular topic depends on
Excuse me, ma'am. Vidya, ma'am. Vidya, ma'am. Your voice is not audible, ma'am.
Yeah.
అది ఏమై
Am I audible, ma'am? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. I'm trying to share my screen. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, we are here. So I was just telling about trapping resources in the state. Can I take a feedback, ma'am? Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. So we will be looking into trapping resources from the state, from the northern and southern states. We'll be comparing data from different states that are cultured differently, or it all depends on the topic of investigation. Then we have to zero in on to the universe of the study. By universe of the study, I mean the geography that which we limit our scope of the study. So from which we are going to collect data. So we have to consider the international standards or international work, get on to maybe continent wise, then get on to the national level, state level, compare districts. So that's how it goes. And people who have completed their doctorates will know sufficient more enough than me on this context. Yeah. Then we have to find about the triggers that they have been discussing, of what the studies have been discussing, and make points about the results that they have highlighted, establish a connect between what they tried to identify, what they found, and what the research gap was. So once the research gap is identified, by the context of research gap, I mean the area that remains unexplored. Say, for example, problems using a mobile phone, or problems in online classes was not at all an area of research 3 years back. We didn't have much of online classes 3 years back. But today, in classroom, when we talk about classroom context, it becomes pervasive that we talk about online classes. So now there is a new research gap that has emerged, a challenge that has come up when we talk about work-life balance for teachers, when we talk about teaching pedagogies for the new generation of students, when we talk about when we prepare the lesson plan, there are a lot of differences in the way we prepared 3 years back and now. And we are worried about the future. We are worried about the skill set that we must have to engage the students even today, tomorrow, and the day next. So this is how research gap evolves. Research gap grows. It is not that when I fill one gap, it is all set. No. The research gap keeps evolving, and as the research gap is filled, and as there are progressions and developments happening in the industry, in the country, across the world, new research gaps will come up. And it is the responsibility of the researchers to be very careful in identifying this research gap and do research, because resources are very scarce. Time, energy, whatever your knowledge you invest, everything is scarce. We must not be investing time in just doing something for the sake of doing something. We must be passionately doing it. So we have to identify the gap. Then once identified, we can set the research questions. Research questions are those, say for example, when I started my presentation, I had some set of questions in my mind when I thought about the topic. So those are the questions that comes into a person's mind when we attempt to do something. Similarly, when we attempt to do a research, there should be some points that we keep pondering in our mind, and that is where real research happens. Okay. Next is, when the research questions are set, we have to ensure the worthiness of the current work that we are attempting to do. If any new work is to be done, say for example, when I tried, I have done my thesis on marketing and management. When I try to identify a topic for research, before fixing up my specialization as marketing, I was told by one of my co-scholars that quality of work life is one topic that people have done too many times in too many different contexts. So I really had an aversion to study quality of work life for teachers. But today I feel it is one of the most emerging topics to be investigated in a teaching setup more than any other context, because there is a total change, there's a drastic change in the way things were happening 2 years back and now. So it is essential that we learn about the situation prevailing in everybody's home when people are working in an academic setup. So no research question goes dumb unless you have a valid justification. So we have to check for the worthiness of the investigation questions, and really have a reality check to know if the current work is needed. Then go about framing the objectives. So these things, once properly done, you will not have much hesitation in framing the objectives. But to set the scope of the research objectives can be few in number, say from 3 to 5 or 7. Something more than that will be a beyond scope investigation, which is not possible in a limited time frame. And next is planning for the future scope and scope of the current work in hand. So once the objectives are set the limitations. What are you going to study? Where are you going to study? Will you have adequate data? Will you have adequate knowledge on understanding the data that you get and convert it into information, analyze the information, and produce some result that is beneficial to the society? Fine. This is the important crux, of the research proposal, preparing the framework and methods to be used in the proposal. So this talks about the research design, the universe of the study, the data to be collected, the samples to be approached, the tools that can be used for collecting data, and methods for analysis. Fine. At this point, I have some questions for the audience to just have a point of interaction. Can you name one new tool that has emerged in the recent days for data collection, for collecting primary data? One new method of collecting primary data.
Online data collection.
Ma'am, come again, please.
Online.
We are collecting through online. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. And what kind of online tools are we using, ma'am?
Either Google Forms.
Yes, we are trying to use
survey method.
Yes, ma'am. We are trying to use survey methods, Google Forms, and meeting people is not essential today. It is just sending a link across WhatsApp groups, trying to collect data and record. Thank you, ma'am. Great. Can you mute your mic, ma'am? Thank you. So this is an emergent tool. So a strategy is that, we plan for something, we go about executing something, and due to some situations, things change, and we try to adopt a new thing that would handle the situation for us. Fine. So we have to think about what was done internationally, what is happening nationally, and think about what is conventional, what is new, what is possible for you and me, and why we should do that. So these questions we should always have in mind to set the context and go about it. So we have to be like, it is not that I know hundreds of methods. No, the respondent must know to access that particular tool and give me data. I would be proficient enough in designing a Google form fantastically, but it would be of no use if my respondent does not use or does not know to use a Google form, does not know to access a Google form, if he has fear in accessing the form. So the method I deploy to take data from the environment. The method I use to convert the data into information, the analytical tools that I deploy to convert that information into synthetic forms of information. All this requires a good sense of or good bent of knowledge for research. We have to be knowing about the conventional methods. We have to be knowing what is new. We have to be knowing what is possible. We have to have a lot of questions: why, when, how, who, like that. And we have to also be careful about the time deadlines and the constraints of resources. Yes, when I was telling you about the project proposal, the budget preparations, I was telling you about the amount that we spend on every aspect, and the time to be spent on each of these aspects, right? So when we adopt all these, we must be very careful in giving data in the research section. We have to cover the scope of the proposal. When we talk about Erode district, I have to talk about all the taluks in the district. When I talk about Chennai as an area, I have to talk about the different parts of the Chennai that I'm going to incorporate for the research. When I talk about young women, I have to include young women in all walks of life. When I talk about young professionals, I have to include all professionals, meaning I have to define who is a professional. I have to define the operational definition. By operational definition, I mean a professional is an engineer, an MBA or an MCA graduate, or any other professional, a doctor, or any other professional for that matter. So who will be the actual samples that I'm referring to as professionals have to be mentioned in the conceptual clarification area and define it operationally. So that has to be correlated here when I define the universe, the sampling frame, the sampling design, and all that. When we talk about including all possible samples, yes, we have to define the age group, the gender, and how are we going to uniquely define them. All that have to be defined. Then, we have to be very careful about defining the tools for data collection. If it is going to be primary data, what is primary data? How am I going to collect? If it is going to be an interview, is it a scheduled interview? If it's a scheduled interview, are you going to use questionnaire in your regional language or the national language or English, the professional language? Because when we are trying to collect data from, say, garment workers in Tirupur, we cannot use English questionnaires. We have to develop a questionnaire in the medium in which a garment worker can understand. But if you have submitted a proposal without that understanding, it is possible that they have a question in mind of how you will use this questionnaire to collect data from a garment worker. It is not possible that a garment worker reads, understands a questionnaire in English and responds by their own. In that case, you will need a person who conducts the interview, records the responses by the interviewer. The interviewee cannot put responses. So all this have to be taken care of. And please remember, we must do all this in the with the limitations given. I'll give you the limitations in the next slide. And next is expected outputs. So when we buy a sari for Diwali, it is not only for Diwali we are buying it. We will have plans. We will be having plans to wear it for the upcoming party or upcoming a program in the college, a function at home, a celebration with friends, a travel that you would like to take up in the near holidays that is upcoming with your fiancé, your family members, or an international trip. So we will have a lot of things on the agenda when we decide about why we need that. No, so that is the expected output. So when a funding agency is sponsoring our research, they will expect some output from our research. About a research is generally done to know and disseminate information. So to know information, you have given the structure. But how would you disseminate information? How would you pass on this information to others? That is the expected output. So we can give plans about reaching our stakeholders. Say, for example, if a research is on impulsive buying, Yes, my topic was on impulsive buying when I did my doctorate. And when I was drafting the findings, I came to know that the suggestions have to be prepared both for the marketer and for the customer. When I give findings, when I give suggestions only for the marketer, I am doing injustice for the customers, because I know to avoid being impulsive, I should carry a shopping list when I go for shopping. So I suggest to the marketer that he must not allow people to carry shopping list to the shop. But when I give this suggestion, this is beyond the ethics of research, and this is unethical to propose such a suggestion. So there were some suggestions drafted for the marketers, and there were some suggestions drafted for the customers. Similarly, whenever a research is planned, we have to keep in mind all the stakeholders of the research. We have to include every person and see to that there is something that is given for the members of the stakeholder community. So we can think about publication of papers, articles in magazines, newspapers, and bringing out edited books or chapters in edited books. We can think about organizing awareness programs, bringing about sensitization workshops, conducting colloquiums for students, organizing seminars, webinars, conferences, thinking about impact lectures for professionals or the strategists who will be using these ideologies, using the data set or database for further research. That is, making your data set available for future research. See, if you have not explored certain parts of your research in your current work, we should be willing to share that data set with other researchers, so that something new that they will be exploring. We can think about conducting panel discussions. We can think about doing some small group exercises, or even some community engagement plans we can give. So these are the possible expected outputs that we can mention. Moving on to the next part, relevance of the research for policymakers and the society. So when we talk about when we think about a research, it should always help in giving an impact for the society, with small and large, to the society. Yes, the society must be benefited. And today, government is focusing on bringing out research only with impact. Nothing doing without impact. You have to record the impact of anything that you do. So to record the impact means, for a research, bringing out some reflection about the existing things, recording the reflections for policymakers, for policymaking, suggesting for the policymakers, and bringing out new amendments for the existing things. So this can be done, yes, at the level of ministry, lawmaking and policymakers, that is in existence, or something new can be done. You can give it to organizations working. You can recommend things for the commissions that are set up by the government to work on certain things. The committees or ad hoc task groups can be recommended. Executive bodies can be informed. The non-government organizations can be kept informed. The state government, the local bodies, non-profit organizations may use the information. So the output should be pipelined to these resources for policy making, because these are the important people who involve in making policies for the state as well the country. You should be aware of a new committee that is being strategically formed for the development of Tamil Nadu. It has been composed by people from different walks of life. And if you could inform them with one of your research outputs, that would be the best part of your research. And relevance to the society? Yes, we'll have to be careful in bringing out the simple findings of your research that could be creative and impactful for the immediate society. Say, for example, if nobody was doing anything on COVID, we will not have so many suggestive ideas on the internet, especially on the YouTube. There are a lot of information available. That is all because what the research that is happening, though not formal, it is research based on secondary data. It is research that is emerging on primary data. So it could, like research doesn't only mean bringing out volumes of books. It is all about creating an impact in the immediate society as well for the governments. We'll have to take into consideration the universe of the study and prepare the, analyze the findings, but we have to be very careful that the findings are useful for the country, the state, the district, the taluk, and common man. So that is how research can be relevant to the society. Finally, so those were the components, or those were the ingredients to cook up a good proposal, a best proposal. So to do that, I have a 4-step process to be suggested for you. Kindly bear with me for another few 15 or 20 minutes, where I will be just throwing a limelight in the 4-step process. So the first step will be, I have divided it into 4, and this is what I've been following. I have been mentored to follow, I should say. And once I started doing this, I have found my research outputs very fruitful. So this is my personal recommendation, and you can have your own styles. So setting up the setup task is the step 1. Pre-proposal tasks is the second one. Proposal writing tasks are the third one. And the 4th step is pre-submission tasks. So by setup tasks, I mean doing the preliminary work about preparing a mindset to do the research and checking if I am eligible to apply for a funding. So that is all about setting up tasks. The second phase is the pre-proposal task, where we will have to think on which domain to choose, which subdomain to take, travel the road not taken, or choose the road to be traveled. And the third stage is working on the actual draft. We'll have to sit, prepare the actual draft. And finally, it is proofreading and validating. We'll just go through one by one. So by step 1, I told you, we are going to set up a mindset and proceed for doing the research proposal. So for here, whenever you have a call for proposal, please prepare a checklist of items that you need to do. Check if you are really eligible to apply. Prepare a checklist of what is to be done and create the proposal document. So these are the important steps that you need to know in setting up tasks. Say, for example, this is one of my research proposals that I presented to the National Commission for Women during 2021. It was application for grant of financial assistance for research study. And the screen you see is the screenshot that I've taken from NCW's website. So whenever there is a call for proposal, please create, today everything is becoming online. So you'll have to log in. Before you log in, you have to create a profile. Once you create a profile, so giving your name, age, qualification, experience, your specialization, your organizational details, your banking details, you will be allowed to apply for the proposal. When you click on the apply button, you will have number of stages in the proposal that we were discussing earlier. So this is the first screen that you can see when we apply for the research study. So the second screen is this. This will be asking for organizational details. I have given all these details, and we have to remember that once we start doing this, we have to keep a record of everything, because every small detail here is important, because this holds a temporary acknowledgement number. See here, there is an organizational ID. I have to remember what mail ID I have given, because future communication might come here. Next. This is the layout of the proposal that National Commission for Women is expecting from me on research study backgrounds. So basic details have been given. Next is details of committee members and their CVs. So when I go into basic details, these are the few things that they are asking me. Topics and priority area. See right side to this, you can see a drop down menu, which shows that you can only choose. You cannot type anything there. So it is a drop down menu. So you have to know what are the suggestive titles that National Commission for Women is sponsoring this year. Next is title of the research. It is not a drop down, so you can select, which means you have to choose one priority area expand that priority area. And next is category of research. Again, you can see it is drop down menu. There will be some options, and these are the options there. 1, 2, and 3 are the options here. From these, you have to choose one option. Since I investigate it in Tamil Nadu, or I belong to Tamil Nadu, I had to choose large state category depending on the population. Next is mention the state of research. It is just a type box, so I have given the input. So this has to be done prior. And I have been working on some topics. These are the areas that the priority on priority topics that was given by National Commission for Women. Next is category of research. And the next slide, as I move, there are certain things that they have been asking. So there should be 3 social science departments involved in the proposal: economics, sociology, psychology, law, business school, management school, history, gender studies, etc. And these departments have to collaboratively form a committee, appoint a nodal officer for communication. So they are asking for details. Which department? Name of the faculty. The department is again dropped down. We have to choose only among the one which is available. Name of the faculty member, the designation, contact number. So you have to add at least 3 people, because a committee needs to at least 1 or 2 members and a nodal officer. So these are some data which I tried to key in, because I must know if I can edit it in the future. So I initially tried to give in some data and checked if I can edit it in the future. And this is the next tab as I go through the proposal. Name of the person, contact number. And see, they have given the characters that I can use. And since nothing was typed, 500 character remains. If you keep typing, this will get reduced. Next is CVs of the principal investigator is asked, of the co-principal investigator, with content on skill set of the person, research experience, papers published, and books. And we have to mention if any research study was done for the government, or the reports are available for online, and with the URL. So it should be uploaded here. And criteria for uploading will be, it is a PDF document, even that will be given in the guideline. And as I browse through the next stages, I can easily identify that there are many questions that I have to answer. Under the heading details of research, they have asked for introduction to research, statement of the problem, review of literature, objectives and hypothesis with 2,500 characters each. So I have just prepared an outline of what is asked in the proposal and how many characters are being asked in each aspect. See, there are some areas where only 500 characters are asked, and there are some areas where 2,500 characters. Please remember, they are characters and not words. So all this I have to prepare in a Word document and start uploading once I am done. And see, there are some additional things here. You have to upload individual respondent questionnaire, institutional respondent questionnaire, a questionnaire for government officials, and others. So what is the size of the document and what type of the document is also specified. Other than this, you cannot give inputs. And time budgeting, when you move to the time budget tab, these are the things available. So how many months you will need for tenure of the research? How many months are you going to spend on preparatory work, selection and appointment of staff, everything? How many months on data collection and how many months on report writing? So those were the timelines, see, duration in months. And next is, what are you going to claim for each aspect of your work? So the positions and the amount required every month. As you give the data and click add, the item will be added to the budget. And finally, a self-declaration is there. So this is the application that I filled and submitted. And as I fill and submit, National Commission for Women is one website where it will not give you a PDF at the end of your submission. You can just take screenshots while you upload data. So that was my prior experience. So I started taking screenshots and recording it. So this was the first screenshot, followed by this. So this is how data was given. Only this much you can add, and the maximum limit is 2,500. You can refrain yourself, you can limit yourself, but the maximum limit is 2,500 characters. Not more than this you can give for 2,500 characters. So once everything is done, The budget is also prepared. Everything is done. Finally, it will allow you to submit. Submit final application. Once the application is submitted, it will give you an acknowledgement. This also is important. Take a screenshot of that. Application submitted and the acknowledgement receipt is generated. So, and this is the dashboard which will give you the proposals that you have submitted in the past. From 2018, I have been submitting. So that is it. And now research proposals are called in for. The webinar proposal is closed very recently, but research study proposal is open until 30th of June. So whoever is interested, you can just click on and just create a template of what is required. See, complete checklist. The proposal document is ready, and now we have an understanding about what is required for doing the proposal. So this is where I started my work for Impress 2019, the second call for proposals. I have a dedicated scrapbook for doing this. So once things are called in for, it will ask you to create a username, password, a profile is to be created. Once I create that, the last date of submission is 16th October. Before 10:30, I have planned to submit. I have been using this login, this password, the temporary acknowledgement number. All this is the record. So when in future, see, for example, I submitted the same in during 16th October 2019. And even during this February, I have been receiving communication for processing this proposal. The last communication, pre-final communication has been sent to ICSSR's office regarding this proposal. So I need to keep track of what is being done. And also you can try to write whatever is required about the proposal, which is not available online. Online, you will have what you have to feed in, but certain limitations you have to really make a note of so that you can have a notebook and write. And next, we have done with step 1. Second step is preparing, studying the request for proposals. So we have just prepared our outline, and now we are going to understand every element. The gap analysis you will do, the SWOT analysis you will do. You will think about if the project is really need to be done and plan your proposal to choose your title. So this is how I was choosing my title for the second call of Impress. I was writing whatever came into my mind, depending on the local context, regional context, district, taluks, my states, my area of expertise, the thrust area of Impress, everything, putting everything into mind. These were the topics that were prepared for the second call of Impress. And you'll be surprised to know about what the final topic was, which I'll share you very shortly. And to finalize the topic, I just went through, because I was applying for Impress second call, I went through the titles that were sanctioned under the first call of the scheme. So it is readily available on any website that you browse through. You can use Google to help you. It gives you the entire scenario of what is happening across the country and what is Impress looking for and what could Impress. Yes. So that's a very detailed list. You can see the number of proposals sanctioned. It runs through 88 pages. You can know about the domain, the affiliation across, like what are the organizations that are getting fund, what type, are they universities, are they institutes of technology and science, are they arts and science colleges, or whatever it is, and who is the person getting the grant and what topic, what is the difference, what is the most relevant topic, what was the most researched area, what is not okay, or how we have to go about very carefully investigating it. So all that you can understand from this. Yeah. So once we know all that, we can finalize the title and go about doing all this. Prepare a checklist. Write the introduction, draft a problem statement, fix the goals and outcomes, know about your team. As I told, for the proposal to a National Commission for Women, you will need a team, right? So you have to appoint a nodal officer. You have to constitute a team from certain disciplines. So you have to find who is it. That person must agree for you, must give you data on time, must be a person who is going to continue with your institution. Your institution must be happy with you and that person working together on a project. You should be willing to collaborate with that person. And it should be a interdisciplinary. Also, today it is transdisciplinary research. So all that you can do. So all this we have decided, we have done. Prepare a checklist and put a tick mark as and when it is done. So the next is ideation. So this was one of the proposals submitted to Department of Science and Technology to conduct a Women Entrepreneurship Development Program that we recently closed in the March of 2021. And yeah, you must have basic details of your institution with you. And always have some brief information about the organization with you ready, because anytime you see for call for proposal, you should not sit and write every time. It should be a refinement of your content that you have earlier. So that is it. And we will have limitations in number of words. Since it was an entrepreneurship, I had to create a profile, my profile contextually relevant to entrepreneurship. So depending, like you must show your experience in research and academics, past experience with entrepreneurship programs, the way you are connected with entrepreneurship, the way you're connected with the stakeholders of entrepreneurship in your ecosystem. Yes? Yes? Shall I continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you. So we have to be familiar with the members of the ecosystem that we are operating with. And selection of candidates is the question they have asked, and they will give us the number of words that we have to refrain from. So you can check about the ways and means in which organizations are choosing people to, make them participate in a program. So even for this, I had to see many websites of how the selection procedure happens. So there was one thing that I did, an online application was generated, a link, a Google form was created to register participants for the WEDP when the WEDP is sanctioned. This is actually not part of the call for proposals, but this is one add-on that I have done here, wherever possible. You can go creative to any extreme, but within the limits. And anything you do, have some justification with a review, because this proposal had no relevance for review of literature. But still then, there was one method that was generally used to identify beneficiaries for training. So that I had taken from the reviews. So all this you need to write. And there will always be scope for adding any relevant information in all the proposals. Try to put in as many information, as many relevant information as possible. That will be of help. So that is about drafting it. So we have to be actively listening to the environment and observe. It is not just listening. I'm making it a point to stress out it as active listening. Watch and understand. Watch news, watch short films, watch videos on TEDx. You will understand things. Network and empathize. Get along with people. Yes, we will not be comfortable, but for the sake of learning, we have to make ourselves comfortable in networking, and that will help us learn a lot about others and empathize. Set the context. Watch out for more. Read and synthesize. These are few simple tips that an academician need not be told, but you can brush upon. Finally, adding the secret sauce. So yes, we can really make a proposal good, but do we make a winning proposal is the question. I just need one or two teacher friends in this group to tell me which assignment you will mark 10 on 10. If you ask your students to submit an assignment, which assignment will be marked 10 on 10? One or two of you, if you can please unmute and answer. Which assignment of your students will be given 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10? The best mark, the highest score for an assignment. When will you give? Hope I'm with you. You can hear me?
Good presentation, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good
presentation
presentation,
is,
ma'am.
thank you. Good presentation is one
Ma'am,
aspect.
originality of the
Presentation and
answer,
correct
ma'am.
answer. Correct
Originality
answer
of the
and
answer.
timely submission. And timely
Yes.
submission.
Yes. Contextual content, timely submission, and impressive, to the eyes impressive.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all for that. So you will be looking for an assignment that is outstanding in the 45 assignments submitted to you. Do you agree with me, ma'am? Out
Yes,
of
ma'am.
the
Yes.
So out of the assignments submitted, the one which is outstanding will be rewarded with more marks. Exactly the same principle applies to a research proposal, which outstands the submitted proposals. So to make an outstanding proposal, think about collaborating with relevant profile for interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary expertise. Think about getting the proposal. If somebody applies for the proposal to you, what will you think? What will you note in that proposal to grant it with some fund? So make it collaborative with a relevant profile that is very much essential to get your proposal sanctioned. The second thing is bring out some uniqueness in the project. Bring out the innovativeness and the scientific approaches. Today, a lot of researchers in science, in commerce, management, psychology are approached scientifically. Many researchers are experimental in nature. They are action researches happening. Anything that you do in biology, in physics and chemistry, the same methodology can be applied to human behavior at work, human behavior in markets. So in that way, you can make it an innovative and unique proposal. And next is we have to align our goals, align our objectives with international sustainable development goals. For example, the United Nations Development Goals, UNDP. So there are a number of programs that they handle with a number of goals. Those sustainable goals have to be kept in mind. We have to consider the vision, mission, policies of the nation, the strategic pursuit of the state, and then frame the objectives. Of all, we have to clearly chart out the implications of the research, keeping in consideration the stakeholder interest and the contribution for policy making. And that will give you the cost benefit justification. So finally, it's pre-submission task. We have to check if the proposal is in proper structure, proper aesthetics is there, good language is there. You can present it to a cold reader and review. Give it to your husband, give it to your wife, give it to your son. They have more exposure than us. They will have a different perspective on the topic that we are studying. Let them have a look. They will give you a simple but important perspective that we have missed to do. Take the feedback, implement, approve, and submit. So on the slide, you will see a feedback that I received for my proposal that I was preparing for Impress second call. And it was one of my very important and respectable gurus who gave me this feedback. He told me to read Poor Economics, the book by Abhijit Banerjee, who has then received the Nobel Prize just then when my project was being considered for presentation. Check for proposal updates regularly. So when I have to be very careful in listening to updates on the topic of my proposal on the news. I have to track the national happenings. I was advised to have at least two things in mind, then proofread before we submit. Finally, I was grant us the fund necessary for us. And it is always our passion that takes the lead. It's high time that we passionately pursue our pursuit and take up proposals. I actually do it with passion, and that has given me a long way to travel. Thank you. I have completed with my presentation. My sincere gratitude to the Department of Management Studies, the head, Narmada ma'am, and Sir Shaktivel Murugan sir at Dhanraj Bay Jain College, Chennai, for giving me this platform to interact and share my experience with. Actually, this is a great learning experience for me, wherein I have explored a lot of areas to make a presentation for 1 hour. I really remain respectful and dutiful in doing this work for sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful presentation, ma'am. It was very informative. Now I invite Professor Dr. V. Radha ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Management Studies, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, one and all present here. I am Dr. V. Radha, Department of Management Studies. It's my honor and privilege to be called upon to propose vote of thanks and this day interdisciplinary workshop on behalf of Department of Management Studies, DBJC College. I would like to extend my gratitude to our Management Trust member, President Sri Dayanchan Samansuga, Secretary Economic Dr. Harisal Mehta, Secretary Finance and Economic Jasmine Manor, our college principal Dr. C. Murugesan, Professor in charge Dr. M. Saktivel Murugan, Head of the Department of Management Studies Dr. A. Narmada, and the other faculty members for their continuous support and guidance in organizing this function. Next, my heartfelt thanks to Dr. S. Vidhya, Associate Professor and HOD, Department of Management Studies, PKR Arts College for Women, Kopichittipalayam, Erode, for accepting our invite and grace this occasion. Thank you, ma'am, for your motivational and inspirational speech. Thank you all the participants. Once again, thank you, one and all, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.